Law and Order. It's a great TV show. It's also something that's very much on our minds nowadays, especially when we think about our southern border where we're told that all kinds of lawlessness is streaming across the border, threatening us all. And there's a lot of discussion about law and order nowadays. This week's Torah reading is all about law and order, Bereshit, in the first chapter of Genesis, we see God creating order out of chaos. He's establishing where things go and what goes here, what goes there. He's establishing order in the midst of chaos. The Haftorah reading, the prophetic reading, twice mentions the Torah as a means of establishing order in our lives with God. Here at Interfaithfulness, we believe that the home is the place from which the law and the order of God's life proceeds out into the world. Jewish tradition calls the home the Mikdash Ma'at, the little sanctuary. It's like the Holy of Holies from which everything else proceeds. And that's why here at Interfaithfulness we supply Shulchan Shalanu. Here it is, Shulchan Shalanu. It's a weekly discussion guide to stimulate grown-up discussion and discussion even amongst the children at your table about issues that inform all of life. One of the features of Shulchan Shalanu is something which we call a morsel, and we spell it M-O-R-E-S-E-L, because it is something more that we add. It's usually a contemporary comment that flows out of the Torah reading of the day. I want to share with you the morsel for this week, for Shabbat Bereshit, to illustrate to you that we get into some very contemporary issues. Listen up. Perhaps you remember the story of Michael Peter Fay, an American teenager who was in Singapore and was accused of having vandalized some cars. This was back in 1994. He was sentenced to 6 strokes, caning. These were not little raps on the knuckle. These were being struck with a cane on the buttocks, the naked buttocks, something that which could draw blood, and did. President Clinton got involved in this and wanted to have his sentence reduced from 6 strokes, and it was reduced to 4, courtesy of the Singapore government. Now, caning is a very common punishment in Singapore. Singapore is one of the most orderly societies in the world. It's generally considered the second most orderly society in the world. And caning is administered to delinquent people, men, under the age of 50, and it can be as many as 26 strokes, and 24 strokes. And that's a lot. That's a lot. So here's my question. How much do you value law and order? Do you want to live in an orderly society where crime is almost non-existent, like Singapore? If so, how much of your freedom are you willing to sacrifice in order to have that kind of law and order? It's a question for us now, as I said, because of all the rhetoric about alleged threats, real and imagined, coming across the southern border. But we need to think, what price are we willing to pay in terms of restricted freedoms and in terms of swift and severe punishment as a means of getting an orderly society? That's the kind of grown-up question that we deal with each week with Shulchan Shalanu, as we try to stimulate in your home discussion which will enrich all of life. I hope you found it interesting. I will post, along with this video, a link where you can subscribe to Shulchan Shalanu, or at least get a free copy if you wish to, because we believe this is important, because spirituality is important, and because the home is the center from which all of this flows. So for now, Shalom. This is Rabbi Dr. Stuart Darman from Interfaithfulness, where we're building bridges, where history builds walls. Shalom.